Hi everybody, welcome back to class. It's Mark, and we are on to week 2 of English 111 for the fall 2016 semester. We're going to discuss what you have to do for session 2. I will not go through everything in as much detail as I did in my first video because I know you're a little more familiar with the course, but we will spend more time talking about your first writing project, Writing Project 1. So I'm going to go into the session 2 folder. And let's see what we have to do there. First of all, there are 3 chapters to be read, Chapter 3, Chapter 19, Chapter 23. We are working on Writing Project 1. This is not the final version that you are producing. This is a draft. You will turn in the final version later. You will be selecting a core reading. I'll show you where those are. There's a PowerPoint on summarizing, describing, and responding, which is what Writing Project 1 is. Plagiarism resources, and that appears to be it. Notice anytime you see the word supplemental, that means you don't have to do it. It's there if you need it, but if you think that you're good on plagiarism resources, for example, you can skip that. It's your choice. We began in week 1, the first discussion board, the first graded discussion board. What picture is your writing process like? I need you to finish that this week, and that involves responding to at least 2 other students and continuing the conversation. Some of you have already finished this because you posted your original post in session 1 and you've already done 2 replies. Great. If you're one of those folks, I've already assigned a grade to it. There is a plagiarism exercise that you need to complete. It's just a short quiz. But mostly I want to spend our time today talking about Writing Project 1. I'm not going to go open the learning activities. I've already described for you a lot of that. I will point out again, here's tutor.com. I mentioned this in the first video. It's a free resource. You can send them a draft anytime. Another person will review it for you, send it back to you with suggestions. Again, it's a free resource. You may not need it for a draft, and you may not even need it for Writing Project 1, but it's good to know that this is here throughout the course, especially when we get to the longer and more complex papers near the end of the course. I absolutely encourage you to use this. So let's go to the assignments and assessments. And this is where the core readings and the first writing project are located. There's the discussion board. We've already talked about that. There's the plagiarism exercise. Again, look at the plagiarism material first, then take the quiz. You'll do great. So here is Writing Project 1, the instructions. Notice there's not a lot of points associated with this, and that's because it is a draft. Excuse me, I just misspoke. These are not the instructions. This is where you turn it in. But as long as I'm on this page, let's talk about this briefly. I need you to send me Writing Project 1 in MLA format. That's the reason that I had you do the MLA test run the first time around. And when you are finished with it, you're going to either put it on your desktop or a flash drive, hit Browse My Computer, and send me the file. Notice down here it says Add Comments. You don't have to use this. In fact, I'd kind of prefer that you didn't. But you can say, if you'd like, enclosed is my paper, have a nice day, whatever you'd like to say. But what I do want to point out to you is you never post the text of your paper here in comments. Occasionally a student will do that because they misunderstood something. That happens. But don't do that. Attach it as a file. And all of these will go into another discussion board, which is located here. And any student in the class will have the opportunity to read your draft and give you feedback. This part makes sense, this part doesn't, check your spelling, etc., etc., whatever they'd like to say. So when you have your draft written, simply hit Create Thread, post it as a file, not as comments. Attach the file so other students in the class can read it. I did need to open the Learning Activities one. Got a little ahead of myself. There's your textbook, of course. Here are the core readings. We'll come to back to that in just a minute, but here are the instructions for writing Project 1. Now, these instructions are numbered 1 through 10 or 12. I'll be able to tell you in just a minute. But for the draft, you are only following steps 1 through 6. The remaining steps are for when you are turning in a final version, and we're not there yet. Again, this is just a draft. And Word is taking forever. Here we go. For this first writing project, you are going to select an article or a video, there are some videos in there, out of the core readings. And your job in this, in about 600 words for the draft, your final will be longer. In 600 words for the draft, describe the article, summarize the article, and then respond to it. Now, what do we mean by describing? Describing means telling me who the author is. Tell me the genre. Is it fiction? Is it nonfiction? Is it memoir? Where did it appear? That should be at least one full paragraph. Now, by the way, in case you're wondering, 600 words, how long is that? In MLA format, using Times New Roman 12 point, double spaced, it's going to work out to be about 2 pages. So your draft will be 2 pages, your final version, maybe 2.5. In addition to summarizing, in other words, telling me what is this piece about, what does it say, what is the perspective, what is the point of view, what is the author trying to accomplish, summarize that, and then respond to it with your own thoughts. Did you think this was funny? Did you think it was serious? Did you think it was ludicrous? Did you think it was authentic? How did it affect you? You should not put any personal opinion in the description. You should not put any personal opinion in the summary, but in the response, you absolutely can tell the audience how you felt, how it affected you. You will be turning this in 2 places. One comes directly to me, and I will read it and review it and give you my thoughts, and the other one goes into the discussion board, which we already discussed, so other students can read the same piece and tell you what they thought about it. The whole point of having me read it and the other students in the class read it is that when you turn in the final version, you have feedback about how to make it better. Don't worry if your draft is a little sloppy, isn't complete, although you do want to hit the word count, but that maybe your thoughts aren't fully formed. But we want to have your thoughts fully formed and have it complete and have it as polished as possible when you turn in the final version. And as it says, first draft only for class session 2. And we are only writing about something that is in the core readings. You can't go outside and find something else. Notice your steps for class session 2 stop at turning it in. Everything else, feedback, revision, etc., that'll come in class session 3. Print this off. Make sure you read through it more carefully than I am lightly skimming over it in this video. Core readings. Here they are. Excuse me. There are file folders on food, economic justice, environmental sustainability, experiencing education. These are not available. You may not see that in your view. Literacy, social networking, and the internet. I didn't want to overwhelm you, so I tried to just pick some that I thought were some of the better articles. Let's go to experiencing education. And we'll look at Sherman Alexie. Happens to be one of my favorite authors. You don't have to like him. Notice that this article is 6 pages long. And also notice that in the introduction, it gives you a great deal of information about the author, Sherman Alexie. Here is the actual text. I'm going to skip to the end. because at the end it gives you a little bit of additional information about where this appeared. Why is that important? This goes in the description. And I'm going to make this up off the top of my head, but a sample description could be the article Experiencing Indian Education was part of a fictionalized memoir by author Sherman Alexie. It appeared in the novel The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fistfight in Heaven. Sherman Alexie is a Coeur d'Alene Indian who was raised on the Spokane Reservation and eventually graduated from a neighboring high school where he was the only Indian student. That's very brief, but it doesn't talk about this article per se, it talks about the author. The next step is to summarize. And in this particular article, he is giving a first person, although fictionalized, account of what it was like to go to first a school on the Indian reservation and later to a high school outside the Indian reservation and what some of his experiences were like. If I were doing a summary, I would probably include maybe a quote or two, or I might just in broad general terms describe what he talks about, which is mostly poverty, economic inequality, and what it was like to be the only person who is of Native American descent going to an all-white high school. That's not a good summary, but I think you get where I'm going with this. That should certainly be one full paragraph, probably two, maybe three. And then the remainder of it, again, is personal opinion. How did this impact you? Did you agree with it? Did you think it was funny? He certainly is a humorous writer. Just tell me your thoughts. How did this affect you? That should be certainly several paragraphs. And you can pick from any of these, but only pick one. You're not going to write about more than one. And we will be coming back to the core readings time and time and time again. I want to check one thing on assignments and assessments. This is where you turn it into me. And this is where you turn it in to the other folks in the class. So you're going to attach the same file twice. The whole point, as I said before, is to get feedback on your draft. It's not a final version. Don't stress about this. I know in the discussion board where we did introductions, there was one or two students who said, I'm anxious about this class. This is a nice, easy way to get into the flow of the course that we'll be following for the next 14 weeks at the conclusion of this week. Your draft will be due on Sunday, September 4th. And that's the same deadline that you have for finishing the plagiarism quiz, completing the readings, etc. I hope you find this helpful. I hope you like watching these videos. They're certainly better than me typing announcements. And as we continue through the course, I'll spend less and less time talking about the day-to-day things because they're all spelled out for you on Blackboard, but spending more time talking about the specifics of the assignments. What's the best way to stay in touch with me? Well, you know it by now. It's by text. 812-498-4200. Text me anytime. If you want to call me, it's 800-416-1747. If you want to send me an email, mstenger and the number 1 at ivtech.edu. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at IUEastStudent. That's all I have for this week. Good luck, everybody. Reach out to me anytime. I'll see you around.